Hello and Assalamu alaikum, everyone. A very warm welcome to the free editions of the AAA Webinar to Success for Exams in September 2024. And I am your tutor, Kashif Kamran. Now, the AAA September 24 exams are just 10 days away from now. And I would be emphasizing on a 10 days study strategy, which a student should adopt to excel in the upcoming AAA exams. Not just the emphasis on a 10 days study strategy. This particular webinar will consist of exam tips and techniques, which will immensely benefit you in terms of passing your upcoming exams. Let's open up the webinar and let's explore the 10 days study strategy, which you should be adopting. The most important thing is to self-evaluate yourself. Today is the 23rd of August. You should sit down and self-evaluate yourself in terms of where are you standing today? What is done and what is left? You are the best judge to answer this. Now, every student needs to ask this question so that you can formulate a best 10 days approach, which you should stick to and follow. So a self-evaluation holds the key. Where are you standing today? Because each one of you knows what you have done and what is remaining. Now that fill in the gaps are very, very important because what is remaining, you need to overcome that and you need to assure that you're fully versed with the AAA syllabus and you have done good amount of practice to pass the upcoming exams. Once you do the self-evaluation, this will really help you develop a study plan for 10 days because these 10 days are extremely important. You have 240 hours before you enter your real exam, and each of that 240 hours really counts. Now, if you have a proper plan, you have a proper approach, you stick to it, you have a proper timetable, you know what to do, what to focus on, you will stick to it, and you will ensure that a day before your real exam, you've almost done everything. You sit back, relax, and enter your exam hall on the 2nd of September. Focus should be on past papers, technical articles, and examiner reports in these 10 days. And I'll just be giving you my focus list for the last 10 days, but definitely the focus now is on past papers because, practice will make you pass the paper. It is the amount of practice you do in the AAA, which definitely enables you to be successful. Let's look at my focus list for 10 days, what you should be doing inside these 240 hours. 10 days, study approach and focus areas. Recent 5 past papers, and you have to go from the earliest, March, June 24, followed by September, December 23, followed by March, June 23, then followed by the September, December 22, and then finally the March, June 22. You have 10 days, recent 5 past papers only, but you have to do them properly. You have to do them under the time management. You need to assess yourself that within 195 minutes, what percentage of paper you complete. You need to assess yourself, and that percentage of completion should go up from the first paper to the 5th paper. And then you do the mock exam. So definitely you should attain a barrier of completing roughly 85 to 90% of the paper within time. Latest March, June 24 examiner report. I'm not saying multiple examiner reports. I'm just saying a single examiner report, which is the March, June 24 examiner report. And I'll tell you what to do with this March, June 24 report in my webinar today and how exactly you should utilize it in the best manner. But one examiner report must be part of your 10 days agenda. 4 exam technique articles. There are plenty of technical articles for AAA. From those technical articles, there are some exam technique articles which guide you how to write a good answer. The 4 exam techniques articles includes ethics in the AAA paper. You will find this under the syllabus area B. Approaching the section A question Now, this is a wonderful article which tells you the type of questions you can get in section A, particularly the type of questions you will get around audit risk and risk of material misstatement. You should be reading through this article. This is under syllabus area D. Exam technique for business risk, how you should write a good business risk answer. What are misunderstandings around business risk? What are do's and don'ts around business risk? When the examining team says, evaluate the business risk, what is the depth of evaluation the examining team is looking for in a business risk answer? Do that under the syllabus area D. And then exam technique part 2, how to write a good audit risk and a risk of material misstatement answer, particularly when the examining team asks you evaluate and prioritize the significant risk of material misstatement or audit risk, what approach you should be taking to go about prioritizing the audit risk and risk of material misstatement. Please be assured that you have read through these exam technique articles. You know how important ethics is. You know how important business risk is. You know how important is audit risk and risk of material misstatement. And then you all know how important is the section A question. So read through them in the last 10 days and ensure you have got the idea in the mind very well. The next 7 key technical articles not to be avoided at any cost. The 4 were the exam technique articles. Those 4 were telling you how to write a good answer. Now we have 7 technical articles, which will give you the knowledge. And that knowledge is given to you from an exam perspective, how it will be examined in the AAA paper. Every article tells you how this will be examined in the future exam settings. Let's see the list of the 7 key technical articles. Number 1, IAASA 5000 ED. You will find this under the syllabus area F, the International Standards on Sustainability Assurance 5000 exposure draft. That's the most recent of the articles published by the AAA examining team. Number 2, Assurance on Sustainability Information Part 1, only Part 1. I'm not saying Part 2, because Part 2 has already been replaced by IAASA 5000 ED. So there is no sense of reading the Part 2 because the content in the Part 2 is very similar to the content you will be reading under IAASA 5000 ED. So it's better to read IAASA 5000 ED and skip the Part 2 article, but do the Part 1. Under the syllabus area F, Quality Management, Part 1 and Part 2. You know this is under the syllabus area C and a very emphasizable of the articles. Number 4th, under the syllabus area E, completion and reporting, you have audit report to those charged with governance. Such an important article because we know in recent past papers, examining team is questioning students around communication to those charged with governance a lot in the section B of the paper. Number 5, ISA 600 revised group audit. Again, that's a recent updation. An examining team can play and emphasize on you knowing the knowledge of ISA 600 group audit. You know what are the responsibilities of the group auditor, or you should know the criteria on the basis of which we define that it is a significant component, because there are changes in the criteria. You need to look at lots of factors in deciding whether this component is a significant component or not. So be very sure of that. Number 6, data analytics. I will not rule out this because data analytics is still an important area, still an emerging area, still a developing area. And as a student of AAA, you should be very sound on the benefits of data analytics, the procedures the auditor can adopt around data analytics. You should have a sound understanding around data analytics. I cannot rule this out that you should not study this. There are a total of 6 on your screen, but the total 7 because number 3 is quality management part 1 and part 2. So that makes a total list to 7. And finally, once you're done with everything, you have to attempt the ACCA pre-September 24 mock. That's the last thing. Now, assure yourself that from this checklist, what have you done and what is still remaining? Self-evaluate yourself. Out of those 7 articles, how many have you done? Out of those 4 technical articles, how many have you done? Have you done the mock? Have you done the recent 5 papers? Have you read the latest March, June 24 examiner report? See what is still remaining and fit that up in the next 10 days. But this is the focused checklist you should be aiming at for the last 10 days ahead of your September 24 exams. Okay, now let's move on. What are key questions? You have to do the recent 5 papers. And some of the key questions I will be telling you will be covered once you have done the recent 5 questions from March, June 24 backwards. But I have to give you a list of the key questions, and you need to assure that each of this key question is ticked and you have done it. You have attempted it. You have already attempted it, or you will be doing it over the next 10 days. Okay, let's first start with the key questions around business risk. March, June 24, question number 1A around the Magenta Group. September, December 23, question number 1A around the Hammer Group. December 22, question number 1A around the Mercurio Company. These are 3 important business risk questions. Now, again, I'm emphasizing that some of these questions will be covered when you do the recent 5 papers. Practice management. Practice management is an important syllabus area, and you need to be well versed with questions under practice management. Let's see what are key questions you should be focusing on in practice management. There is one question under practice management which I would like you all to do, which is in the March, June 22 paper, and that's the question number 1B. And the name of the question is infinite company. The question number 1 is around infinite company. This is the D part of that question and a very interesting part. Let's see what the examining team asked for in this particular question and why this is so important you should be attempting. Because this is the only one time I have seen a question like such in the recent history. Using the Exhibit 5, conduct a review of the information contained in the Meadow Company client acceptance to evaluate weaknesses in the Pascal and Company acceptance procedures and recommend improvements. So as an audit firm, what weaknesses have you done in the client acceptance procedure? We know client acceptance procedures are very important, matters you should consider before accepting a client. So in this question, the examining team is asking for that what sort of issues have you done in the client acceptance procedures for Pascal and Company? And wherever you identify a weakness or an issue in the client acceptance procedure, you should recommend improvements which should be implemented. One of a question, and I would prefer all of you to do this question for practice management. Then for quality management, such an emphasizable area, such a regular area, and has almost become a frequently asked question in the AAA exams since the introduction of the new ISQ M1 and 2. You should do the question March, June 21, question number 2 around the bond group, which has 4 subsidiaries, a wonderful question. And if you do it, you have all concept clears around quality management. September 22, around the Forsythia Group, quality management issues. If you do these 2 questions, you will have a better approach to quality management in terms of your AAA paper. Ethical and professional issues. One question, March, June 24, question number 2. I found this as a very interesting question, and I would recommend all my students to do it. So 4 syllabus areas: business risk, practice management, quality management, ethical and professional issues. Please ensure you take a printout of this and ensure you tick mark all these questions as your preparation for September 24 exams. Other areas: reporting and evidence, syllabus area E. March, June 24, question number 3. That is important. Please ensure you do it. September, December 23, question number 3. Please ensure you do that. March, June 21, question number 3. In the list, this is the most important one. So please ensure you have to do all 3 of them. But within this list, this is the most important one, which you should be focusing at. March, June 23, question number 3. This is another very important question. So to me, these are the two most important questions out of the four: March, June 21 and March, June 23, question number 3. These two are the most important of the four, but you have to do all four of them because these are all important questions carefully selected for the area reporting and evidence. Then on the other side, other assignments, syllabus area F, syllabus area F is regularly examined. You should be very sound on other assignments. September, December 23, question number 2, around forensic. Question number 2 from the September, December 21 exams around prospective financial information. Question number 2 from the March, June 22 exams around due diligence. September 22, question number 3 around prospective financial information. We know examining team loves prospective financial information. They've put a lot of questions on that in recent history. So please ensure at least you do 2 questions around PFI, a question on forensic and due diligence. And lastly, the question number 2, March, June 23, which is again around prospective financial information. So 3 questions around PFI, 1 around forensic, and 1 around due diligence. That would be sufficient in the 10 days time you have for exams. And lastly, other areas. Question number 1C, December 22, impact of outsourcing on audit planning. Please ensure you have done it and you are very clear about outsourcing and its impact on audit planning. Question number 1A, September, December 21 exams. Planning matters for an initial audit engagement. What sort of planning matters will you consider for a first-year audit? March, June 22, question number 1C. Discuss the responsibility of the auditor for money towards money laundering and evaluate whether there are indicators of the client involvement in money laundering. Money laundering is an important area, and you should assure that you have done the recent papers around money laundering. September 22, question number 1D around the Winbury Company. With reference to the data protection issue referred to in Exhibit 2, discuss the audit firm responsibility in relation to laws and regulation. We know laws and regulations, auditor responsibility towards laws and regulation, auditor responsibility towards a non-compliance with laws and regulation is all important areas. So be assured you have done these 4 questions for the other syllabus area. So this is a checklist of the key questions you're going through. Most of them will be covered when you're doing the recent 5 papers, but still if someone is left, please ensure you have gone over this list and ticked every question. Okay, now coming to the question number 1. We know how important that is, and I will be taking a holistic overview of the question number 1 because I need my students to be well versed with question number 1 and you're not creating any confusion around it. We have seen a lot of transformation in the question number 1 since September 2022 exams. And since September 2022 exams, there are changes in the question number 1. There are changes in the way the question number 1 is put in. And I would like to discuss each of those changes and be assured that my students appearing for the September 24 exams are fully aware of this transformation in the question number 1 since September 2022 exams. Now, it's almost 2 years when you're going for the September 24 exams. Number 1 is the new way in which the audit risk and risk of material misstatement question has been put in the March-June 23 paper, question number 1, and the March-June 24 paper, question number 1. I hope when you do the recent 5 papers, you will be focused on March-June 24 question number 1 for audit risk and risk of material misstatement, and March-June 23 question number 1 for audit risk and risk of material misstatement, because it has a new way in which an audit risk question could be examined. You're very familiar with a way which was introduced from September 22 exam, which was evaluate and prioritize the significant audit risk, or evaluate and prioritize the significant risk of material misstatement. You're very familiar with that. But there is another way the question could be raised in. Now, any student who have not read the article, which I just recommended you, exam technique article, which was among the 4 exam technique article, approaching the Section A question. If you read through this article, approaching a Section A question, examining team has informed you about the possible ways in which an audit risk or a risk of material misstatement question could be examined. So if they're examining audit risk and risk of material misstatement in a new way, they have already given you an article on that. They've already told you in the article that this is the type of question which can come in the future exam, and they even given you the way to solve it. Now, if you are not reading that article, and in ignorance of that article, you are entering the exam hall, and you look at a question like such, and you say, I have never done a question like this. This is your fault, not the examining team fault, because examining team has already made you aware that in the future exams, question like such can come in. And after writing this article, they have started to give in you the questions, example, March, June 23 and March, June 24. I'll be showing you that shortly on the screen, that this is the type of the question we're talking about. Let's just go to the practice platform and just let's explore that this is the type of question I am talking about. Okay, I hope you can see the practice platform in front of your screen. We're looking into the March, June 24 paper, the most recent one. And we are into the question number 1. We'll open the partner email where we have the requirements just to see the new way in which a question on audit risk and ROM can be put in. You open up this question and you look at the requirement number B. And when you look at this requirement number B, this requirement number B is asking you justify why each of the following has been identified as a significant risk. 1, 2, 3. You will need to determine and apply an appropriate materiality threshold in your briefing note, and you have total 14 marks. Now, I'll be coming to that in the question number 1, when you determine and apply an appropriate materiality threshold, let's see what the partner has told us. The partner has mentioned that based on analysis I have done on this industry, it is appropriate for the overall materiality to be based on the profitability of the group. So I want to base my materiality on profitability because that's what the partner is telling me. And that's what the examining team is telling me in the B requirement. You will need to determine and apply an appropriate materiality threshold on the basis of profitability in your briefing note. And you know, there are 3 technical marks in the question number 1 for determining and applying the materiality threshold. I'll be speaking of materiality more shortly. So 14 marks minus the 3 technical marks you have for materiality determination and application, you are left with 11 marks. And for 11 marks, you have 3 risk: operating license, operating segments, oil and gas extraction platform. And under the headings of the 3, you need to secure your 11 marks. Now, every point you are writing is giving you 1 mark. Suppose you comment on the materiality. You comment that operating license are significant because they are material or they are above the materiality threshold determined. Above, because you will first determine the materiality. Then you will say operating license is material. You're telling that this is one reason why it's significant because it's material. That's one of the reasons. That's the normal way you answer the audit risk or ROM question, right? There's no change of approach. Yes, then you talk about the accounting treatment. What's wrong in the accounting treatment for operating license? Is management doing something wrong with the operating license? There could be multiple accounting treatments within one area. For example, in operating license, there could be an accounting risk or accounting treatment around amortization of the operating license. There could be an indicator of impairment review. You need to perform an impairment review of the operating license. Multiple accounting areas. So every accounting treatment you write is giving you 1 mark. Then you have the risk and the impact, that what is understated and what is overstated. If the management is doing a wrong accounting treatment, for that reason, what has been understated and what has been overstated. There could be multiple areas of under and overstatements. There could be some sort of estimates involved. There could be some sort of management subjectivity. There could be something special given under operating license, operating segments, where management is using some biasness, some sort of fabrications. You can link that up with the case scenario. And that all goes building up your 11 marks. Oil and gas extraction platform. There could be multiple accounting treatments when you read through it. So every comment on the accounting treatment is giving you 1. Materiality is giving you 1. You're identifying what is understated, overstated is giving you 1. Any specific risk of management bias under the 3 is giving you additional marks. Any calculation you are doing is giving you 1 mark. Suppose there is a need to calculate something, that's giving you 1 mark. So everything you do under the headings is giving you 1 mark. So 3 headings: operating license, operating segments, oil and gas extraction platform. So you put those 3 headings, you start writing the answer as if you do the normal audit risk answer. You know, journally, each audit risk is worth 3 marks when you write a normal answer. And you comment on the materiality, you comment on the treatment, you comment on the risk and the impact. That's the same approach. But there could be an extraordinary circumstance defined in the scenario, which could give you something about subjectivity, management bias, anything like that. And that specific point should be written to score more marks. So that is the type of a question which has started to come in more recent paper. Justify why each of the following is a significant risk. Now, examining team has already made you clear that all 3 of them are significant risk. The only thing they want from you is your justification why you believe they're important. So partner has already identified them as important, but the partner wants to hear the audit manager perspective, that why you think they are important. Do you agree with me? So this is how you take on this approach. And the same question has come in the March-June 23 paper. I think over there, they just asked for 1, that why inventory has been considered as a significant risk and develop procedures on inventory. That was just 1. Over here, we have 3. So be assured that you have an idea of how you go about answering this question. And you have read the article, which is Approaching Section A Question, which is right in front of your screen now. Approaching Section A Question. And in this article, it has been very clearly given that a question like such can come in future. See this. Assessment of risk style. You can get a typical question on risk, which you are very familiar with, which is right here. Evaluate and prioritize the significant risk of material misstatement or audit risk. This has come many times in the past paper. Or in exams like March-June 24, March-June 23, already the examining team has put a question right here. Justify why goodwill has been identified as a significant risk of material misstatement. In March-June 23 paper, we got a question like such. Justify why inventory has been identified as a significant risk of material misstatement. And in the second part, design the procedures to be performed on inventory. Over here, it's goodwill. So already a question like such has come in March-June 23. And the question we are looking for in March-June 24 is already given here. Justify why each of the following has been identified as significant risk. Goodwill, inventory, non-current asset. We got 3 in March-June 24 exam. An examining team is telling us that what you need to do to answer this question. Please read through this paragraph. They're telling you what approach you should take to answer a question like such. So it is very, very important that are you utilizing the right resources at this point in time when your exams are 10 days away? And have you prepared yourself in the right manner? Because ignorance is disastrous. If you've not read this article, you have no idea about the new way in which an audit risk or ROM question is being put in. You're calling yourself into failure. Okay, one more thing which I would like to discuss with you through this March-June 24 paper, and we're looking at a question which is to justify why each of the following has been identified as significant risk. If you look at this examiner report in front of your screen, and in this examiner report, I'm looking at the question which we were exploring right in front of your screen. Justify why each of the following has been identified as a significant risk, and you need to determine and apply an appropriate threshold of materiality. See what the examining team is telling us. I have highlighted that in blue. The requirement is typical in volume and nature to many planning questions and examines a major area of the syllabus, risk of material misstatement. So the examining team is saying the requirement is very similar in volume and nature to many planning questions. So the way you answer an audit risk question or the way you answer a risk of material misstatement question, the answer to this question will be the same in volume and nature. In this question, the requirement incorporated the format where candidates are asked to focus their answer on specific areas to justify why they are considered as high risk. Although the wording of this requirement is more specific, the skill is the same. See, the wording is very specific, but the skill is the same. Skill is the same as you answer an audit risk question, as you answer a ROM question. You know what you do in a typical audit risk and ROM question. You first tell whether the subject matter is material or not. Then you talk about the accounting treatment. You identify what is wrong in the accounting treatment. Has the management recognized something wrongly, classified something wrongly, disclosed something wrongly, or not disclosed something? What is wrong? And then for that wrong, what is misstated in the financial statement? Is something understated or overstated? So I normally tell my student it's about materiality, it's about the treatment, it's about the risk. Risk is like wrongly classified, wrongly recognized, wrongly valued, no disclosure given. That is the risk. And impact, understated, overstated. Or when a no disclosure is given, financial statements are materially misstated. So that's four. Materiality, treatment, risk, and impact. Impact on the financial statement. Four things, right? This four things is giving you 3 marks. Every audit risk is worth 3 marks. But in a question like justify why each of the following is a significant risk, you might even fetch 4 because every point is giving you 1 mark. But in a typical question on audit risk and ROM, this is giving you 3 marks. So please ensure you read through the examiner reports because examiner reports also tell you that even though the question is very specific, the skill is the same. Okay, one last thing. Candidates are expected to perform the relevant analysis to support an evaluation of the risk of material misstatement. There were 14 technical marks available in this part of the question, in addition to significant numbers of professional marks. It was disappointing to see that some candidates obtained few marks for this requirement as they continue to rely on the basic or generic explanation. Everything was given in the scenario. You need to read through the operating license, operating segments. You need to identify what is going wrong within those accounting areas. You need to have a very good accounting knowledge to pass the question number 1. Accounting knowledge is needed when you're justifying why each of the following is an audit risk or ROM. So you can't attempt a good question around audit risk and ROM if you're bad in international financial reporting standards. You need to be good on that. Okay, now just let's get back to the point we were discussing. Let me get back to my presentation. I hope you're fine with this point now. A lot of emphasis has been given in new way in which audit risk and ROM question is coming in the March, June 23 and 24 paper. I hope you will explore them both. I've shown you an example of March, June 24 paper. I've shown you a demonstration of the examiner report and of the article approaching section A question. I hope you will be reading through all of them and you will have a clear mindset of taking on such a question if it comes in the September 24 exams. The next thing where the student seems to be confused is the marking scheme around materiality statement in the question number 1. We just saw in the March, June 24 paper that the partner was telling to the manager that I would like the materiality to be based on profitability. Since September 22 exam, in the partner email, you will see a factor on which the materiality is to be based on. Sometime it could be revenue, sometime it could be total asset, sometime it could be profit. Mostly it's profit. Now, you need to determine and apply the materiality to score 3 marks. And the problem with the student is they don't understand how to fetch these 3 marks, what you need to do for these 3 marks. And more importantly is where to put the paragraph, where to place this paragraph in the briefing note. I'll be covering this both shortly. Placement of this paragraph and how you get 3 marks for this paragraph. Now we had a 14 marks requirement, justify why the following are a significant risk. And in those 14 marks, 3 technical marks were available for materiality determination. And it's important how you place it. Let's see how to go about it. Just let's go back to the examiner report, and I'll be doing a sort of an answering technique as well. Look at this materiality part from the examiner report, a document which students ignore. And I'm not really happy with that approach of the student. See, this is what the examining team is telling us under the paragraph of materiality in the examiner report. I have highlighted this in blue. Candidates are expected to initially determine a materiality threshold for the audit, as would be done in practice. So as you do in the practical audit. So if you have no idea of the practical audits, no worries about that. Your partner is telling you that materiality is to be determined on profit, and you need to determine that on that basis. 3 technical marks are available for the materiality determination. So this is not my perspective, this is examiner perspective. 3 technical marks are available for it. Candidates are expected to demonstrate a knowledge of the appropriate percentage range for the benchmark as instructed by the partner. In this question, profit before tax was to be utilized, with which candidates expected to use 5 to 10% as the range. You should know the range very well. Revenue, 0.5 to 1%. Total assets, 1 to 2%. Profit before tax, 5 to 10%, because that is the first thing you need to do for 3 marks. So profit before tax, and you know the range of profit before tax, 5 and 10. And calculate the monetary amount in respect of the range. So you will calculate how much is 5%, show the answer. You will calculate how much is 10%, show the answer. Candidates must then use their professional judgment to select an appropriate materiality threshold. So from 5 to 10, which one will you use? Will you use 5, 10, or something in the middle, like 6, 7, 8? That's very fine. 5, 10, or something in between. You have to exercise your professional judgment. Which appropriate materiality threshold will you be choosing from the 5 to 10, which exist in the audit, and provide a brief justification of the choice. If you have chosen 5%, why? 7, why? 8, 9, 8, why? 10, why? So first calculate the materiality at 5%, show the answer, 10%, show the answer, then tell I'm choosing 5% and justify why. You're getting 3 marks. 1 for calculation, 1 for choosing, 1 for justifying. So calculating, choosing, justifying. Each of them is giving you 1, 1, 1. Let's go back and see if we can do it. Let me take on the practice platform for a minute. Okay, I hope you can see the practice platform. You open up the briefing note, and I also need to give you the placement of that as well. So you put the briefing note to from subject date as you go down with it. Then you have introduction followed by part A. Part A is business risk, and part B is significant ROM, significant risk of material misstatement. Now, the moment you put this heading, significant risk of material misstatement, because you need materiality only for part B, not for A, business risk have no relevance to materiality. So you will put the materiality paragraph under the B heading, materiality. So you put the first paragraph, materiality, here. I'll show you how to write it down. Then after that, you will go writing the answer for operating license, why operating license is a significant risk, then operating segment, and you move on with the third one, I think oil and gas exploration, whatever that was. Exploration 3. And you move on to then the C requirement, and then the D requirement, if there is any C or D, fine. Now, when you're putting the materiality paragraph, you will go down and check the background information. We need to see the profit before tax number. Let's see if this loads up quickly. Okay, we have this meeting notes in front. We have the profit before tax number given here. The profit before tax is 323 million, right? So this is the profit number, 3233 million. So you take this number from here and you go down and you say in your paragraph in the briefing note, materiality is to be based on profit before tax, which for the current year is dollar, and you copy paste the value, 3233 million. Then you say the range of materiality for PBT is 5 to 10%. At 5%, the materiality will be, and you calculate the amount, whatever amount comes here, will be dollar whatever million. At 5%, you calculate the 5% of it. And at 10%, the materiality will be dollar fill in the blank million, full stop. So you have done the first step, 1 mark. Then you justify that out of the 5 and 10, which one will you be choosing? Let's just me check, is this the first year audit or is it a recurring audit? Okay, just let me go down and check. Responsible for the audit, a listed company, and just let's check the partner email. Spanning relevant information. I've decided on this. I've provided with the email. Okay, seems not to be the first year audit because nothing is given about the first year. So it is a recurring audit. So you can take any of the judgments. There is no one right and wrong answer. I'll be telling you that as well. Examining team says it's your justification what the examining team is looking for. You should not match the examiner answer. Examiner might have taken 7, you have taken 8. Examiner might have taken 5, you have taken 6. That's not an issue at all, right? What the examining team is looking for is your justification. So you calculate 5 and 10, full stop, 1 mark. Then you need to choose which and why. For this audit, the materiality threshold is taken at 7%, taken at 7%, which is dollar fill in the blank million. So I'm not taking 5, I'm not taking 10, I'm taking something in the middle because it's a recurring audit. So for this audit, the materiality threshold is taken at 7%, which is dollar million. I'm getting 1 more mark because I'm justifying my threshold. And why? Because this is a recurring audit. However, there are some specific risk as identified already, for which we need to, which we need to address through this audit. And I'm getting my last 1 mark. So 1 mark for 5 to 10%, 1 mark that I'm taking 7. But why 7? I'm taking 7, firstly, because it's not the first year audit. Had it been a first year audit, I would have taken 5, the lowest. Secondly, it's a recurring audit and we have risk. I could not have taken 10. I take 10 when I'm doing audit of a company for last many years, perhaps, and there are no risk. Now, this is quite unusual situation. Normally, even we are doing a recurring audit, we have risk every year. We have operating license risk, we have operating segment risk, we have oil and gas exploration risk. So I cannot just maximize it to 10. I need to keep it somewhere in the middle, 7. And the reason is not a first year audit, but there are some risk. So I'm taking at a more of a balanced percentage of 7. 3 marks. This is what the examining team wants from you to be done. And it should not be lengthy than this. Then you start writing operating license, operating segment, and oil and gas exploration. And now you look at the value of the operating license and you say operating license is material because it exceeds the above threshold, whatever the threshold you've determined above. So you will tell that operating license is material because the amount of the operating license is exceeding the materiality threshold described above. So that is one reason why operating license is significant. So please ensure you know how to put this paragraph, how to write this paragraph, read the examiner report very well, and the placement has to be under the audit risk or under the risk of material misstatement requirement. So the moment you put B audit risk or B risk of material misstatement, under that, put this paragraph on materiality. Okay, just one last thing, and moving away from this, something very silly the students can do. Again, back to the examiner report, and we're looking at the paragraph of examiner on materiality. See this blunder by students. Some candidates concluded that as there was a high level risk present with the audit, the materiality level should be increased, thus failing to understand that there is an inverse relationship between audit risk and materiality. Higher the risk, lower the materiality. If it is the first year audit, in first year audit, we have high risk because detection risk is high. So in the first year audit, I'll keep the materiality level at the lowest 5%. But if it is a recurring audit, the risk gradually goes down, not zero. So when risk gradually goes down, I'll keep increasing my materiality, just the way I take at 7%. So there is an inverse relationship between risk and materiality. And the examining team is criticizing that even at reaching the AAA level, you're unfamiliar with this relationship, even though this is taught in the AA paper. It's written in the examiner paragraph. I hope you will read through examiner reports. You will read through how to write answers, how to determine materiality. So much information is there in the examiner report, but the problem is students are ignoring this. And that's one of the reasons why the passing rates are low in AAA paper. You're not investing time on this wonderful resource from the examining team. So I hope you're very clear now. Hope you will give time to the resources. Again, this is a free webinar. I cannot go much into depth like a classroom, but I'm just giving you some ideas where you can just connect to the right documents and find the right perspective. So the marking scheme around materiality and how to go about determining it and where to put the paragraph on. Conclusion of significant audit risk, risk of material misstatement. Which one of the above are significant and why? You need to give a conclusion for the significant audit risk. But now comes the problem. There are two types of questions which are coming on audit risk and ROM. If I can show you the illustration. If I can just go back to my practice platform again. Okay, and I can open up my briefing note. And I can just use it as my document to write something for you. Now, there are two types of questions, right? One question which comes very frequently on audit risk and ROM, you're very familiar with it, is a question which is evaluate and prioritize the significant audit risk or significant ROM. That's one of a typical question, right? And one question we just saw in March, June 24, which already say, justify why each of the following is a significant risk. And in that, examining team has given you A, B, and C. Why each of them are significant. So already they're telling you they're significant. No need to give a conclusion here. You're just justifying why each is a significant risk. You're not giving a conclusion because it's known they are significant. Examining team is already telling you they are significant, so no need to give a conclusion for this sort of a requirement. But in the first requirement, which is asking you to evaluate the significant risk, in this requirement, you will solve the answer. For example, it's a 22 marks question, and you're solving this. Again, first you will put the materiality paragraph, and you will take 3 marks here. You are left with 19 marks for audit risk, for example, after taking those 3. And in 19 marks, every risk ideally is worth 3. There could be some risk like new audit client where you don't have accounting treatments. A risk without accounting treatment is worth like 2 marks, but generally a risk is worth 3 marks. So 19 divided by 3 is like 18. We can write one extra. 3, 6 are 18, 7. Okay, we'll write 7 audit risks, right? You write the first audit risk, you write the second audit risk, you write the third audit risk, you write the fourth, you write the fifth, you write the sixth, you write the seventh. This is just an example, right? Now you're writing the risk in the order in which you find them in the scenario. You might find some risk in exhibit 1. You might find some risk in exhibit 2. You might find some risk in exhibit 3. So in the order, you're finding them and writing them. Whichever comes first, whichever comes second, no issues at all. You just write them down in whichever order you're finding them in a scenario. That's an easiest way. Now, after the 7th one, you will give a conclusion. Now, conclusion becomes must because the requirement is asking you evaluate, conclude, and prioritize the significant wrongs. Now, you have done 1 to 7 in the order of the scenario. Now you will tell examiner which of the 2 are more important and why. Only 2, right? Not starting to write that this comma, this comma, this comma, this comma, this comma, this comma, and you say all 7 are important. No. Examining team just wants to ask you which 2 of them are important and why. I don't have time. I could have shown you the previous examiner reports. And in those previous examiner reports, it's very clearly written that you justify just 2 or 3 of them, which are important and why. So probably you say from the evaluation of the audit risk above, the risk related to impairment of the property plant impairment and the risk relating to impairment and government grant are significant on the basis that they have the highest quantitative value and involve estimates around recoverable amount and conditions. Sorry, just take this as share-based payment, right? Share-based payment and conditions around vesting criteria, that all employees will exercise the share options. None of the employee will leave the organization. Again, that's an estimate, right? So to me, these 2 are important. And why? Firstly, because they have the highest quantitative value. And moreover, in each of the risks, there is a degree of estimation, the recoverable amount and the conditions, estimates around the recoverable amount and the and the vesting criteria, that none of the employee will leave organization. Again, this is an estimate, right? Full stop. The conclusion could not be bigger than this. Which of them is important and why? If you say this and this are important, full stop, like you put a full stop here, impairment and share-based payment are significant, and you put a full stop, useless. Why? If you say I'm taking 7% as my materiality, why? Every time you need to answer the why. So this and this is important out of the 7 and why. Now, again, there is no right and wrong answer. To me, share-based payment and impairment is important. To another student, management bias or first-year audit could be important. To another student, operating license and operating segments could be important. Every student needs to justify that why this is important. There is no one right answer, and it should not reconcile with the examiner answer. Please be very sure of that. So just your justification. Examining team will give you professional marks for your exercising of judgment, your basis, and examining team would be very happy if you say this and this is important and why. So a conclusion will come when you get a typical requirement, evaluate and prioritize a significant audit risk or wrong. You just answer them in any order as you're getting them in the scenario, don't be worried about prioritizing them. Just do it in any order. And at the end of the day, just tell this and this is important and why. This is how you go about it. I hope you're fine with this as well. So these are some important things which have changed since September 22. This is the transformation of the question number 1. I've already informed you of the article, the significance of the examiner report, have shown you something on the practice platform around the recent papers. I hope you got some clues and you can just fill in the colors and make them as brilliant as possible. Okay, now moving towards a few of the last things in this webinar. One important thing, no conclusion around business risk. A lot of time I've seen student writing conclusion for business risk. Even though the business risk is put in the exam, evaluate the business risk, there is no conclusion for business risk. Never put a conclusion for a business risk. I hope you're clear with that. Okay, completion and reporting stage. Such an important syllabus area, just like question number 1, where we get syllabus area D. It's mandatory, it's important. In every exam sitting, you get a question around that. In the same way, syllabus area E, completion and reporting, is a mandatory question. Let's explore something about it. Syllabus area E is a mandatory part of section B of the AAA paper, and one of the 2 questions will be set around syllabus area E. You will never see an exam setting without syllabus area E. It's a must part, just like syllabus area D. So you should be good on this. You need to be well versed in the syllabus area, as this is a strong opportunity provided you are good in accounting standards. Just like syllabus area D, question number 1, you need to be very strong on IAS and IFRS. Just in the same manner, for syllabus area E, you need to be very strong on IAS and IFRS, because the problems given to you in question from syllabus area E will be accounting problems, will be accounting issues, just like they're given in an audit risk and risk of material misstatement question. So your performance or your exceptional performance depends upon how good you are in your accounting knowledge. The topics which are regularly examined from syllabus area E includes evidence, going concern, communication of matters to those charged with governance, and audit report. You should be very well versed with questions around going concern, questions around evidence, questions around communication of matters to TCWG and audit report. I've given them in the key questions you should be practicing and the recent 5 past papers. Do practice the key questions recommended earlier to have a strong grip on this area. Matters to be communicated to TCWG is an important area, and in the recent past have become a more focal point of the AAA examiner, and you should not ignore it for the September 24 exams. Do question March, June 23, question number 3. It's already in my top questions. And another question, March, June 19, question number 2. Please look at this. March, June 19, question number 2. March, June 23, question number 3, must to do, plus do read the article around this subject matter. And I've already recommended that article in my 7 articles at the beginning of the session today, audit report to TCWG. So do read that article, do solve these 2 questions, be assured of matters to be communicated to TCWG. At times, a student tends to underperform with their knowledge around paragraphs in audit report. They're very blur. They have misconceptions about CAM, MURGC, other matter paragraph, other information paragraph, emphasis of a matter paragraph. You can just spoil your reporting question if you're not very clear with the knowledge around when to use a paragraph, what situations give rise to MURGC, what situations give rise to CAM, what will alert you in the scenario that I should give emphasis of a matter paragraph, what should alert you in the scenario that I should give MURGC. Be very specific about the rules and regulations of each of these paragraphs. Be very sound with opinions, qualified, adverse, disclaimer. Be very sound with material and pervasive. What is pervasive? because pervasive will lead to adverse, and disclaimer, are you very sound on the pervasive side? Because a lot of time the student takes extreme actions in a reporting question. Even though the matter is material, they conclude it as pervasive, eventually giving a wrong opinion. That's the syllabus area E, important area. Do the key questions, do read the articles recommended, and ensure that you're taking this as an opportunity to pass your upcoming exams. Sustainability focus. AAA paper, advanced audit and assurance. And we're talking about sustainability focus. You must be amazed. Sustainability is also a subject matter of strategic business leader. Sustainability is the most in thing, even for accountants and as auditors. Now, sustainability has taken a center stage in the last few exam sittings, since the examining team has written plenty of articles around sustainability. Let's explore this area and how important this could be for the September 24 exams. Examining team has published 3 articles around sustainability information in less than a year time, with the recent most being IAASA 5000 ED. The recent most being IAASA 5000 ED. Let's see, am I correct in that perspective? I hope you can see the technical articles in front of your screen. You go down, we are looking into the syllabus area F. And when you look at the syllabus area F, look at the first 3 articles. The article number 1 tells us proposed international standards on sustainability assurance 5000. This is the most recent one, IAASA 5000 ED. This is on sustainability assurance. Number 2 article is assurance of social, environmental, and sustainability information part 1. And number 3 article is assurance of social, environmental, and sustainability information part 2. 3 articles in less than a year time, with the most recent being IAASA 5000 ED. What you should do. So I hope you're clear with my first bullet. 3 articles in less than a year time, with the most recent one being IAASA 5000 ED. The first 2 articles titled Assurance on Social, Environmental, and Sustainability Information Part 1 and Part 2. I've just shown you that. The Part 1 and Part 2 covers auditor responsibility for other information in the document containing the financial statement, which is basically the ISA 720. I hope you're well versed with ISA 720, auditor responsibility for the other information contained in the document containing the financial statement. And then the part 2 deals with the matters you should consider when accepting an assurance engagement around sustainability and the procedures you should be performing. So the part 1 of the article is dealing with ISA 720, auditor responsibility for other information. And the part 2 is dealing with matters you should consider when accepting an engagement on assurance, on sustainability assurance. You are very familiar with this subject matter. It comes so many times in the AAA paper. Matters you should consider before accepting an engagement, practice management. And that's given in the part 2 of the article. Now, because IAASA 5000 has been introduced later, the subject matter of the part 2 article is same as IAASA 5000. But IAASA 5000 is now a framework. So if you are preparing for September 24 exams, I would prefer that you only do IAASA 5000 ED and you only do the part 1, which is covering the ISA 720. If you do the part 2, you will find a lot of similarities between part 2 and IAASA 5000 ED, and you might be wasting your time. So I'll prefer that in 10 days, only do the IAASA 5000 and the part 1. So the part 1 will make you clear on ISA 720, and the IAASA 5000 will make you clear on matters you should consider when accepting an engagement on sustainability assurance, the procedures you should be performing, or any other planning matters. Read through the whole article. But you know that such questions comes from other assignment procedures, matters in accepting an engagement, and that is all what is covered in IAASA 5000 ED. You must be well versed that all other assignments tested in AAA from syllabus area F The examining team is very fond of asking questions around engagement, acceptance, matters, and procedures. And that can be the same case with a question on sustainability assurance, that you are invited by the client to offer them a service on sustainability assurance. And the question might ask you the matters you should consider. It could include the ethical matters as well, because if it is an existing client, you might be concerned about ethical matters as well. So please assure you read through these articles, IAASF 5000, that is already in my list of 7 articles, and assurance on sustainability, environmental sustainability information part 1 is already in my list of 7 articles, not part 2. I didn't put part 2 in my list because of overlapping subject matters. So sustainability is the most in thing. Don't take a risk of ignoring it for September 24 exams. It could have an impact in section B of your paper. Quality management. You all know about this, how important it has become in the recent past papers. Ever since the examining team has written an article on ISQM 1 and 2 and the revised ISA 220. Quality management is another area which has taken a center stage in the AAA papers in the recent past. Quality management continues to dominate the recent exam settings since examiner articles on the new standards around ISQM 1 and 2 and the revised ISA 220 already in my list of 7 articles to read through. Do the key questions I have recommended you on the quality management area and the recent 5 papers as mentioned earlier, and assure yourself that you have read through the 2 articles and you are very sound on this subject matter. Expect the unexpected from the quality management articles. There is plenty yet to be explored. There's so much in the articles which can come in the future exam settings. I have done my June 24 premium webinars for my paid students. In that premium webinar, I did explore the depth of this article, quality management, and areas which could potentially impact the future exams. So any student who is with me, registered with me, and has already watched my June 24 webinars, you must have a pretty clear picture of the depth quality management have and the potential areas which can come to the future exam papers. In the mock exam for June 24 and now in the mock exam for September 24, in both the mock exams, there was a 6 marks requirement around quality management knowledge, not case knowledge. And knowledge can be examined from quality management articles because there's plenty which could be examined. Be assured you have read through it, because 6 to 8 marks of a direct knowledge coming from quality management is possible. So be assured you're taking on this area as important for September 24 exams, just like previous exam settings. And finally, down to the March-June 24 examiner report. I've shown you a glimpse of that today when we were discussing materiality and discussing why each of the following is considered as a significant risk. March-June 24 examiner report. Ignorance is disastrous. You have to read it. And I'll tell you what, I'll tell you how to go about it. Examiner report is a must-to read document, and I'm just telling 1 in 10 days. 1 in 10 days. Hardly take 2 hours maximum, and you're done through it. But you will be amazed what you will learn from it. Let's see what approach you can take around this March-June 24 examiner report to get the best results. You need to read through the March-June 24 examiner report after you have attempted the March-June 24 exam paper. So first attempt the March-June 24 exam paper. Have your answer ready. Take a printout of your answer. Keep it on the table. Open the March-June 24 examiner report on your laptop or on your mobile phone. And keep a red pen and a green pen with you. And start reading the examiner report. Now, question number 1, you have done it. Examining team will tell you that student did this well, student did this bad. Related with your answer, see, is there anything in the examiner report where the examiner is telling the student did this bad and you have this in your answer? In your answer, circle that area in red and identify what I did wrong. Why is the examining team telling me that this is a wrong area? Learn for your future exams like mock and your September exam. Something mentioned in the examiner report, but the examiner report is saying that the good student did that. And you say, oh, I've also done that. Circle that in green. You're doing a self-evaluation of your own paper. And you're also learning the greens and the reds. The green means something good, the red means something bad. And you're learning. And that learning will really help you with the mock exam. Because a lot of time we don't know the reasons why students fail. And we keep asking this question to our tutors and mentors why we fail in the AAA paper, even though the reason could be well investigated from the examiner report, but why we fail. Because I have no idea how many times have you compared your answer with the examiner report, and how many times have you done that red and green analysis to identify where you went wrong and why. You're more obsessed with examiner answers. You idealize examiner answers. You need to stop using examiner answers, rather invest heavily in examiner reports. Keep your answers with you and read through the examiner report to identify your strengths and weaknesses. This analysis will help you do better in the AAA pre-September 24 mock and will largely benefit you in your real exams. So once you've done the red and green analysis, you know, okay, these are the do's and these are the don'ts. The don'ts, I will avoid them in my mock exam. The don'ts, I will avoid them in my real exam. I might find issues in my materiality paragraph. I might find issues in the way I write a conclusion. I might find issues in the way I evaluate the risk. I find issues in the way I evaluated the business risk. I might find issues in the way I write procedures. But at least you are learning, because ignorance is disastrous. You have not read the March June 24 examiner report. You're optimistic that I've done wonderfully well in terms of my preparation. You go to the September 24 exams. 6 weeks later, your results are out by the mid of October, and you fail in the AAA paper. Just because you didn't bother about investing in the March June 24 examiner report, you did those silly mistakes which were already communicated to you by the examining team, but you didn't bother about reading them. There are a lot of issues you might be doing in your answer which are highlighted already in the examiner report. So reading that is an opportunity. 90 minutes of time spent on the examiner report with the red and green analysis will immensely boost your prospects of passing your real exam in September. And I always reinforce the importance of examiner report as a useful resource, the most important resource published by an examining team. So I hope you will largely benefit from this webinar. You will largely benefit from the exam techniques I have shared with you around examiner report, around quality management, around sustainability, around key questions, around transformation in the question number 1. I hope you will largely benefit from the 10 days approach you should be taking and the timetable you should be making for the 10 days. You can keep in touch with me. You can reach me at my email ID, kashifkamran@gmail.com, for any queries, any questions, any future admissions, or anything you would like to ask about September 24 exams. You can WhatsApp me at my given number, which is +92 333 238. Just let me make a correction here. It's 238 3442. Otherwise, you would not be reaching me. It's 92 333 238 3442. And you can follow the updates about more exam tips and techniques, which I will be releasing for September 24 exams on my LinkedIn page, which I explore more now. It's linkedin.com/in/Kashif-Kamran. That's where you can reach me and explore more updates. All the best to all of you for September 24 exams. I hope you will largely benefit from this webinar. Please do press the like button if you like this webinar, and please do drop your comments about how much you like this webinar, and any key thing you learned from this webinar. Please do drop it in the comment section of the YouTube. Take care. Goodbye and Allah Hafiz.